doing?
I'm good. How are you today?
I'm fine. Thank you for accepting my invitation.
Thank you for inviting me.
I was really impressed by your art when I get to know it. And then this interview is, a way to get to know you better, right? Because
Yay, I'm so glad.
yeah. So, well, this podcast, I call it, it's a bilingual podcast, right? I call it Word Culture or Cultura de la Palabra. And I'm just interested in, communicating with creatives here in the city and, in other places of the world to know how they're doing, in these times, what they're thinking, and how
Yeah.
are they seeing the challenges that we are facing as human beings, right? Because
Yes.
we're facing this pandemic collectively, right? We have never had, I guess, such an experience.
Yeah, we've never had such an experience where the whole world is literally going through the same thing at one time.
So for me, I'm very surprised because this idea of globalization that we read so much about and we talk so much about is, for me, I think this is one of the main manifestations, that we are all in the same boat.
Yes. Yes, we're all, yeah, experiencing the same pandemic, maybe in different ways, obviously, but yeah. It's
So, tell me about you. You have a very interesting story. I think. Where were you born? Where are you from?
I'm from Nashville, Tennessee originally, though I have no accent left because I've lived all around, I guess. I went to school in Ohio and people made fun of me for my accent, so I think I just like subconsciously got rid of it.
Oh,
Unfortunately, I kind
okay.
of miss it. And then I lived in Chicago for like 15 years. We lived in Amsterdam for a couple years.
Nice.
Yeah, then moved to Miami because we couldn't stand the Chicago winters anymore.
I was gonna ask because I have thinking about Chicago so much because I love it, but
Do
the,
you?
the cold weather is too much, right? I can.
It is. I mean, like 3 months out of the year, it's great. But the rest of the time is basically winter, and you could get a blizzard every day. One of the phenomenons that kept happening in the last couple of years when we were there was the were the polar vortexes, where it's so cold that you can literally throw a pot of boiling water up in the air, and it freezes and turns to snow
That
as it
is
comes
so
down. Like that's
cool.
not normal.
I mean, it's cool to look at, not to
Yeah,
live.
exactly. Watch it on a video.
Wow. But tell me, I know Chicago is a city that really stays in you in a way, right?
It
What,
does.
what
It's
did
such a
Chicago mean to you, culturally speaking, and as a human being?
Yeah, I mean, Chicago's kind of an anomaly, I think. It's kind of like they call it like the biggest or the smallest big city maybe in the country because it feels like a big city because there's so much culture and there's so many things to do. There's so much art. But the people are so nice. It almost feels like a small town in a way, and you do get to see the same people. And we really enjoy living there and meeting people there, and yeah, we miss it a lot. Many things about it, but Miami's also been wonderful. But it's one of my
Yeah,
favorites for sure.
but I would say the respect that people have for culture there, and for example, architecture is a thing, right? That the
Oh
city is
yeah.
proud of.
Yes, it has
Right?
so many amazing buildings. If you go on the architecture tour there, it is absolutely worth it. And I actually used to work in one of the buildings that was a really cool, one of the buildings they point out on the tour, the Reed Murdoch building, which is the most haunted building in Chicago. So just even working in different office buildings, they each have all this history. And if you've ever read Devil in the White City, it talks a lot about those buildings and what it took to build them. Like
I
I mean,
know.
people were pioneers. They would build
Every,
the
every
tallest
time
building.
that I have been there twice, and every time that I have been, I always took the tours.
Oh,
I
cool.
love the stories. I love them. And
Yeah.
I did that with my son once, so that was great.
Oh, nice.
All he wanted to do was to skate at the skating park because
Oh,
it's
cool.
so cool.
That's awesome.
So, I spent the whole weekend trying to grab him outside of the park. Let's watch Chicago. And he was like, no, Mom, but this is cool. I'm like, yeah, but there's a lot to watch.
You just have to keep going back to experience all the different cool parts. Yeah. And the museums.
Yeah.
I mean, so many fantastic museums.
Oh my God, amazing. There are institutes that are there. And, and the views. I mean, the lake, it's such a beautiful thing, right?
It really is. Although if you've ever swam in the lake in the summer, you think it's so cold, but you get used to it. But it is like one of the coldest bodies of water.
Oh my God. I find that Miami water here cold, so I can never
you wouldn't like it.
So then, after Chicago, you say you came down here?
Yeah, we had a couple of years, my husband and I had a couple of years of living in Amsterdam, and then we went back to Chicago. Yeah.
Tell me about Amsterdam.
Well,
how was it for you?
It was really a great experience as far as experiencing a different culture, just being so close to all these different countries we could travel to, really seeing what other countries thought about the US, which I think was a really valuable experience to just understand what other people, how they see us, because we're taught certain things here. We are only shown certain news. We're not shown world news. That was one of the amazing things there, was to experience world news. I mean, we're just like, why is it not like this in the US? Why aren't we getting this global?
There's certain narratives, that are the ones that are more prevalent. And I don't think some people notice. I guess everybody do, right? I don't know.
Yeah, if you're used to one thing, you just don't know what you don't know, I guess.
You don't know. Yeah, we don't know what we don't know, right?
Yeah.
But, and then after that, what was like coming to Miami? How is like being an artist for you in Miami, especially your art? Because I want to, if you can please explain a little bit about what is it that you do and I know you have a practice, right? An organization too?
Well, I've started a couple of groups. I have not formed any nonprofits or anything, but when I was in Chicago, I was in advertising. I was a creative director. I was in marketing, and I just felt it didn't align with my ethical values, and I just had to get out. So I used the move to Miami to switch careers into being a fine artist, which is what I always wanted to do anyway. I just didn't have the guts or maybe the skills to like survive in that in that pool of people. But Miami like kind of shaped my art, because I didn't really know what kind of art I wanted to make when we moved here, and I just started exploring. But then of course I started noticing all the environmental and social justice issues that are so prevalent in Miami. I think it's just under a microscope here. Like everything here is bigger. I don't know. It seems like it's, one of the most expensive places to live with the average income. It's really a tough place to survive.
With a huge migrant population that I don't know, people don't know how they do it.
Yeah,
how we do it.
I know. I don't know.
Let me include myself in there.
Yeah, no, we've struggled since we've moved here, and I don't know, like we're very I'm so fortunate to have a college education and have some backup and have some savings, but like how does everyone survive here? It's really hard. And yeah, just the disparity of income here. It's so obvious. It's like you see people driving down the road in these crazy cars, and then there's people really struggling. So it was just really eye-opening, I guess, for me. In Chicago, I was kind of in a bubble. I was in a bubble in Chicago for sure, with my advertising professional friends, and we lived in, on the north side, and it's a very segregated city. In Miami, I feel like there's so many amazing cultures that we've had the pleasure of interacting with, and it feels like a smaller city. It feels like you can just really learn so much from each other here. And especially through the art community and through the activism community, we've really gotten to know some amazing people. We've just seen so many perspectives. And I've been able to focus my art on social justice and environmental justice. And I never really thought that I would go down that route, but I just felt like I needed to, and it's been so rewarding. And and I've like met people like you. It's been amazing the people I've met doing this. So I'm just so happy that we moved here. It really shook up my life in a good way, even though I miss
Good.
Chicago. And you can't beat this weather.
I understand. So tell me, do you find Miami Caribbean? Like, and what do you feel like Caribbean is for you?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that question?
If you feel like Miami is Caribbean,
Oh,
it's a Caribbean city.
uh-huh.
And if you feel that, do you consider Miami a Caribbean city? And I'm talking in terms of art, because, you know, I'm thinking that I'm kind of obsessed with the idea that Miami should be more considered a Caribbean city, meaning that we should, I think, pay more respect to all the Caribbean cultures that are part of the city, you know, that have been kind of marginalized in a way, or kind of, you know, put aside. But they are really a fundamental, you know, part of who we are as a city, right?
Absolutely. I feel like Miami has a history of, you know, it was built by all these different cultures and people, and it's not necessarily, and they don't enjoy the same rights or the same celebration, maybe. It's very interesting as far as the dynamics from my perspective. But I think, like, I think Haitians are such an important part of the city, yet we're still struggling to extend TPS, and they contribute so much to our society and to our economy here and in New York, but especially in Miami. And a lot of the Caribbean cultures do it. I think you're right. I think
and not only Haitians, you know, we have Jamaicans, people from Bahamas, and even, you know, we have Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, that is Caribbean. Cubans, we are Caribbeans. We just act thinking that we are something else.
Right. Yeah, and I do see celebration of the Cuban culture here. But you're right, I guess I haven't really noticed as much lifting up of the other cultures that really contribute to the city. That's what I love about Miami, is that
it's fascinating, right?
Yeah, it's really wonderful. I mean, very cultural.
Let's talk a little bit about your art more in particular. Let's do it by, I don't know, pieces or by exhibitions. What can you tell me?
Well, I kind of
narrate a little bit for me about what you do.
Yeah.
Let's say your key pieces or something like that, you know.
Okay. So I have a series called the After Image series. This one behind me, you can't see it very well with the lighting in here, but it's kind of a reddish series, and it's all meant to mimic kind of the color I think everyone sees when they close their eyes when they're looking at the sun, or like right after they looked at the sun. It's that impression, that after image that kind of stays in your, kind of is burned in your retina for a minute. And I use that series to highlight key species in South Florida, or key issues, or key places in Florida. For instance, I did one of a photograph by a photographer, John Bob Carlos, a few years ago, of an area in the Everglades that was going to be basically disturbed and torn up because they were going to put this bike path that was actually a huge paved road right through it. And this bike path was actually going to be for oil drilling equipment to go through the Everglades and drill for oil. And it was going to disturb the water flow. It was going to disturb several key Miccosukee sacred areas. So I used that series to highlight that area. And then I sometimes use the artwork to highlight petitions, or just in a way to create more awareness around an issue.
What about the ones that you use for protests? What was the protest that I saw you? It was in Miami by the Bass Museum?
By the Bass.
Yeah. I don't remember what that was.
There was one, well, I think I've been to a couple around there. There was.
Yeah, me too. I don't remember. But anyway.
They all blend together now.
I know, right? It's so weird that I don't remember the topic anymore. I just remember the experience.
That might have been was that the March for Our Lives protest?
Yes.
And I
Yes.
have this, it's actually right next to me, this Marco Rubio
Yes, that's the
sign.
one that I remember. Let me show. Can you please show that?
Yeah, let me see if I can get it without everything falling down.
Oh, sorry.
He's right here. It's a kinetic sign, which I started making just to catch more attention. So it's actually double-sided, and this is for March for Our Lives. So he's juggling balls. It says, Marco Rubio, stop playing with children's lives.
Oh, that was when the shootings, when the school shootings.
Yes.
That's what it was.
So he's juggling thoughts, prayers, and inaction.
That's true. That people were criticizing them for the prayers, and they were sending prayers to the victims.
Yes. So I kind of use my art to fight back in a way if I can, depending on how much time I have. And I've made several of those kinetic pieces because it just grabs more attention. It just, for me, it feels like a validating way to fight back. And I hope he saw it.
Let me ask you one thing. I love the fact that you explore art with politics. Few artists do that because, we all know, I guess, right? It could be controversial, but also some people don't get it, right? Yeah. But I bet also that it's a world of possibilities, especially in the times that we're living. What was your thinking process behind that decision, or how has been the journey?
I just started to feel like it was my obligation to use my art for that, and to use I have marketing skills, I have writing skills, I have organizational skills. I just felt like I've been in this bubble for years, not really contributing to justice in any way. I would say, oh yeah, that needs to happen. Someone's working on that. I didn't realize I need to be the person working on that. We all do. It's not just going to take care of itself. So
Let me stop you there. I have this message this morning. I just posted on Facebook, I posted this song, Where's the Love? With an idea that says, let's practice, stop preaching and more hands-on.
Yeah.
I feel it the same. I have the calling that we need to do something to help other people, right? Totally. Instead of just talking about it and debating all day about it.
Right? Yeah, you can spend your whole day debating on Facebook, but it's not really that helpful.
That's what we do for a living. That's what we do while the world is, and I think really, I feel a call to action somewhere. I'm exploring that too, how to better serve people, but I want to do it,
Yeah, and you can start small. And I feel like, for me, I like to do things incrementally. So I started by signing petitions, and I started feeling better about that. And then I started volunteering with some places and getting to know some more activists and kind of looking to them for what they do. And then I started to learn more about policy and how you actually affect policy. And I kind of dipped my toe in that with with a black bear hunt that was happening in Florida. And it worked. And it actually stopped the hunt, along with all these other activists that really organized around it. But I felt like I actually made a difference. And then because of that little win, that really propelled me. And I felt like I know kind of now how it works. Once you see how policy is moved through the system, it just becomes more apparent and easier. And you really just need to galvanize with other groups, and you become powerful if you have a coalition. That's actually the most powerful way to make any changes, to have a coalition. So I think social media has really helped that organizing, to meet people and form coalitions and become powerful that way. But yeah, you're right. You have to use it in an effective way to actually do something rather than just talk about it all day.
And I'm repeating that in a loud voice to myself too, I'm not saying that just to people, when I talk something, I wanted to embrace it myself first, because I have the tendency to do it too, to talk and talk and talk and not do anything about things that I really care about.
Yeah, so we can all do more.
Yeah, let me ask you something else. As a white artist, I know that you are very supportive of Black Lives Matter as, social justice issue, right? And civil society issue. What do you see? How do you see that we can move forward with this topic of making people aware of how systemic racism is, and what can we do to change it? All of us, because I think for me, it's clear it's a responsibility individually and collectively. But I understand that people have different ideas. And some people think it's not their problem. They have nothing to do about it. And, you know, I have tried to have some conversation that have turned really uncomfortable. And some friends, you know, have disappeared. I have retreated a little bit more because we are living in these times of restructuring, because there are issues that are affecting all of us, right? And we are becoming aware or not. What is your experience of this time in this
Well, I
regard?
think I wish I had the answer, but like from what I have observed, I think you're absolutely right in that I think everything is individual actions along with group collective policy change. And right now I'm listening. I just need to listen, and more white people need to listen. And we need to really look to our Black leaders to see what we need to do and how we can best help. Sometimes we think we know and we have all the answers, but we just need to take a step back and listen to each other and really follow the organizers who have been working on this for years, and become aware to that, and then actually, you know, go beyond just, I think it's great that a lot of people right now are reading books to kind of open their minds about these systemic issues. I'm still reading books too, but we also need to like take it a step further and actually try to change policy, and just keep going and pushing. And we have momentum right now. There's momentum around this. And I think if people can just move incrementally as much as they can right now. I know COVID is hard. It's hard getting out. It's, you know, it's scary. But if you go to a protest and just really feel, you know, you get to know more people, you get to
the energy, the vibe. I just sometimes, you know, I was telling somebody that asked me, I was like, the vibe that I got in this protest is something that I cannot even explain. And that is that's probably the main reason why I get there, because it's so much inspiration.
Yeah,
right?
Totally.
When you see all these different people from all backgrounds and united in one single cause, you know, which is to respect each other, to take care of each other in the same level, right? I love that.
It's a beautiful thing. And I, you know, people love to tear each other down and say, oh, protests don't do anything.
I know.
They've actually done most of the things in our, you know, in our society. Like every time society has pushed forward, there's always been a protest aspect. So it's so important, and it's essential work. We have to do it, and we have to keep getting out there. And
for me as a Cuban, you know, the fact that I can explore that and enjoy that, I don't have the possibility in Cuba, you know. People don't understand that is what democracy is like for me, you know. The fact that you can, when you disagree with something, you can pacifically, you know, protest.
Yes.
That's great. That's beautiful.
It is.
I didn't know that in Cuba at all. We couldn't exercise that right.
Yeah. Well, it's getting scarier here. I mean, you know, we've had this history of free speech.
It's becoming kind of similar, unfortunately.
Yeah. What DeSantis...
Well, we are far away. Hopefully, we are still far away from that.
Yes. Yes, I hope so. I hope we maintain our ability to protest. That's one of the foundations of this country.
Yes. Yeah. So what are your upcoming projects? I saw that some projects of you were canceled in the middle of the pandemic. So what are you exhibitions, right? Some exhibitions. So moving forward, what strategies are you using to adapt to the, you know, online times, and how do you see your art evolving?
Yeah, there's definitely less opportunities to get out there. I mean, one of the things as an artist that you have to keep doing is you have to keep mingling with other people and other artists, and you usually do that at shows. So that's been really hard, not extending, you know, that circle of people that talking to other artists, and just, it's been difficult. I'm appreciative of things like this where we can talk. There's been definitely some forums like that, but it's hard to adapt to selling work online. That's not where I make my money. So I'm actually a teaching artist as well. So I've been teaching for the last couple of years. So I have adapted, and I was teaching for a couple of museums and for the city of North Miami, but I have adapted, and I've been doing workshops for kids on Zoom. So that's that great. In a way, yeah, it's been nice to not only connect with the kids and provide something interesting for them to be doing, but to think of like the most creative, fun project they could have right now. Because I'm sorry, but as a kid right now, that's a really hard thing to be going through. Yeah, but it's also been nice to kind of just do it on my own and not have to rely on institutions. I almost don't want to say this because I know afterwards, like,
we have to come back to institutions regardless. But we're critical of them too.
I know, exactly. And that's a good thing. We do need to be critical of them, especially now.
To provide feedback, don't you think?
Yes.
Institutions need feedback. I don't know if they're ready for that, but they need it. Otherwise, how do they know if they are, delivering their best service,
Absolutely. Yes.
Especially in the arts. How do you see the arts scene here in Miami?
I think it's an amazing thing. I love that it's so huge here. There's so many artists. I mean, it's like, I'm from Nashville, Tennessee, and everyone you meet there is involved in the music industry in some way. But here, everyone's involved in the arts in some way, to me, from my perspective. So I love that. It's so inspiring. There's so many opportunities for me. At the same time, it's also very, like, you can get lost in a sea of people. It's hard to be like, hey, I'm here. Like, you really have to make a splash. There's no sense of urgency if you're trying to sell artwork. There's no sense of urgency because there's like a festival every weekend. So people are like, I'll buy that next time or something. So I quickly
exactly. No, we are living in these times of, how do you call it? Recycling everything. So everything is momentaneous, very temporary.
Yes.
Messages are really short. They have to be succinct.
No, you're right. So I found out quickly selling art was not gonna support me. but who
knows, right? Collectors, I bet, will make a favor by buying everything that you produce, because honestly, you are doing kind of history, I think, because, through your art, you can tell, things that were happening here in Miami, politically speaking. I think that's great.
Yeah, and I think it's the artist's job to document, not only like document history, but make people think about the current times in a different way too. So if I can get people to do that with my art, because it's not me shouting at them in a way, I'm not just preaching like, hey, you need to think this. Yeah. It's this piece of art that's separate that they can look at and engage with
and relate to in whatever way, Yeah. That's a beautiful art.
Yeah.
And as a migrant also, I think for me it's very, very interesting, because the relationship that migrants have with politics here is unique, because as you come to this country, you're supposed to be thankful, right? Because it's like a second opportunity in your life for whatever challenge we were escaping from. So the fact that you become part of this country, and then you have the right and the possibility to intervene in the political life in whatever way, it's something that in a migrant mentality, you feel that you have to gain, kind of. But, I think at the same time, when you see your art, we all relate to that regardless, So that is where I see that, we belong, we are resonating with the same things, that because this is happening to all of us.
You absolutely belong. This country is made of migrants, and that's why it's so disheartening to like see what's happening right now. Like, what? Like, we are this, where do you think this country came from? I mean, we invaded, but yeah, of course, like now there's so many people here from different cultures, and that's what's beautiful about this country. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Melanie. It has been a pleasure.
Thank you.
And where can people get to know about your art or your classes?
If they go to my website, melanieoliva.com, they'll see everything.
All right. Cool. Okay, good to see you.
Take care. You too. Bye.
This is going to be out in March. I will tell you exactly the date now that I check with my calendar, but it's going to be out in March, okay?
Okay. Thank you, Eva.
Ciao. My pleasure.